You are watching the Southwestern American Choral Directors Association Connections podcast. Please like this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel for future content.
Hello, everyone. I'm here today joined by Elena Sharkova, and she is our 12th grade mixed honor choir conductor for SWACDA in Albuquerque. So, Elena, welcome and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to talk about the program and the event.
Absolutely. Well, maybe first, you're very well known in the choral art form, but I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about your musical upbringing, how you first got involved into choral music.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have one of those unusual I think, stories because I was placed on music track by my government at the age of 6. So it's a very interesting system that we used to have in Soviet Union. Is every child has to go to daycare, and daycare would have specialists there, like social workers, whose job actually was to figure out what each child was predisposed to. And so in my case, there was this very funny story that I could not sing songs in natural minor. And I once came home with a little note attached to my sweater that said that Elena should not be singing songs in natural minor until she turns 5. The part that I love the most is that it said natural minor, which is practically every single Russian folk song. Natural minor. So my parents bought me a piano, I think when I was 7, and an education was free for us as long as you practice and as long as you're going on the track that you were put on. And then with that, once I finished regular school at 8th grade, I was then into college, 4-year college, where we finished high school, but we mostly studied music. And then after that, I had 5 years, so I spent 5 years getting my graduate degrees at the conservatory. And that's all I practically knew. I was not allowed to play sport because I was playing piano, so my fingers belonged to the government. But I
this
did
is
ballet.
your college experience and everything up to that point was all in the Soviet Union?
Yes, yeah. So I finished my graduate degrees at the St. Petersburg Conservatory. And then a few years later, I came to the States and did another graduate degree here. And then the rest is history, yeah.
Oh, so you did another degree here in the States?
Yes, I did. Yes, I studied with Craig Arnold at Western Michigan University. It was a wonderful, wonderful 3 years. I learned so much, and it was such a welcoming community. And of course, Dr. Arnold is a phenomenal mentor.
Well, that leads me to my next question of who are some of your mentors or influences in the world of choral music, and what are some important lessons that maybe you learned from them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say that my main mentor was my conducting teacher at St. Petersburg Conservatory, Tatyana Ivanovna Nemkina, who, for 5 years just kept me in it's a very different relationship that we have in Russia with your main teacher, conducting teacher or piano teacher. That would meaning what instrument is your major, and this is a person that you see 3 hours a week, one-on-one. And so she was quite tremendous, and I think she truly discovered in me a conductor that I could be, because I personally never kind of saw myself as anything. I just loved the social part of choral music, because I was trained as a pianist. And then at a certain point I realized, oh my gosh, my whole life is going to be sitting in a room with this black box. This
Right.
like the size of the color of the box, it will be different, but it's still going to be a box. Although I still to this day absolutely cannot live a day without playing a piano. But it is conducting that just really fed my soul. I mean, choral art that fed my soul. Then for a few years, I was a member of a professional choir called Ligi Artis, and the conductor of that choir, Boris Abalyan, is also a tremendous musician, and so he was a huge influence on me. Then, of course, Dr. Arnold, who, just received me, fresh off the boat, if you will, and it just kind of like very gently guided me into the world of American choral music. So, I mean, which is, such a different thing. That the two countries cannot be more different in the way we approach music and the way we train musicians, professional musicians. And I have to say that one of the people who, one of the incredible musicians and phenomenal, I think, human beings that I met almost immediately once I arrived to the States was Dr. Andrew Thomas. He was in Kalamazoo, which is where Western Michigan is doing a workshop. And I just happened to be in the car when we were, transporting him from school to university, and then some very early conversations that I had with him, just listening to him teach. And I will never forget the first time I saw a spiritual being taught by Andrew Thomas. I'll never forget. It was Wade in the Water. And it's still the end of night. Yeah, Wade in the Water. And I just thought, oh my God, I want to know everything about this idiom, about this kind of music. And I tell you, it just so happened that we started doing same events, adjudications together. And I still consider him one of the main influences in my life. And then, of course, I met Anton Armstrong and Sigrid Johnson. I was just so lucky to be in the same events, and just, gosh, the people who are in choral music here are I think some of the best humans in the whole world. And what I've learned just watching them adjudicate and work with choirs, clinic, and conduct, yeah, tremendous, absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you were encircled by some really great choral giants in the States, and now you have become one, so that's wonderful.
Thank you.
As a personal anecdote, I traveled to Russia with the University of Tennessee Chamber Singers in 2006. We were in St. Petersburg and Moscow, and it just
best
kind
time.
of
It was the best decade to travel to Russia.
It was a great time. It was wonderful. And I had a little taste, very small taste, of Russian music and training and how that works there. It seemed to me very different. Maybe you can zoom in on that for just a moment. Yeah. So in the U.S. we have more of a classroom setting for music consumption and music education at first. Would you describe the Russian model as more of a master apprenticeship situation as opposed to more of a classroom setting?
It's both. It's definitely both. But the fact that you cannot just decide, at the age of 18 that you're going to become a professional musician. You come to it with at least 5 years of very, very strong, being a part of a very strong curriculum. So for instance, you can't just study piano, right? You have to, since I was 7 years old, I had music history, ear training, dictation, twice a week piano, twice a week choir. And so altogether, it's about 8 hours, 9 hours a week that you have to train in order to then go to that college, which is 4 years, ages 14 to 18, and then you go to a conservatory. So, I mean, and another thing that I try to do as hard as I can here, even in my situation right now that I have a youth choir and I also have a symphony choir, music was never taught as just music. You are a part of a huge, so music is one thing of a big cultural context. So if, when you're a little kid and you're playing Minuet, right, by Bach, you study how to dance the Minuet. So you understand the steps and you understand, why this tempo is like this. And if you play a Polonaise by Chopin, you practice how to dance a Polonaise. Not only you do that, but you also study what, Poland or France was at the time when Chopin was writing this, and then what architecture was at the time of Bach, because architecture and painting is all the same, but on the other hand, we were completely not allowed to study anything religious.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, but I cannot take an approach that you take a piece of music, you learn the notes, maybe you even, you do the text, but you don't study what was around this piece of music. What literature was it, when I was conducting Brahms, my teacher would say, okay, so this piece was written when Brahms had a beard or did not have a beard.
I see.
And what does it matter? Well, it matters because he put a beard on when he fell in love with Clara Schumann.
Sure.
You see? And so that his approach to life was completely different.
Yeah, it seems like it puts everything very much into situational context.
Absolutely. So it's culture, social life, what was happening in terms of what was Europe doing? Was there a war at the time? Who was that emperor who the Beethoven dedicated his symphony? So much. And so here, to me, it's just too lean. Too lean
Right.
not to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I'm already
it's
prepared.
very surface level.
Yeah. And but I think it's just that it's a different approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like very intensive study, and that's that has its merits for sure.
But you're right about apprenticeships. For instance, very few conductors. So imagine you had 8 years of School of Music for Children, right? That was about 8 hours a week. Then you have college. You go 9 to 6, 6 days a week, 10 months a year, right? And then you have conservatory, 5 years of the same, 6 days a week, 9 hours a day. And then you graduate, and even still with that, you really don't get immediately a job conducting. You go to a professional choir, and you get yourself so much literature, and you watch. So that is an apprenticeship. That's just a paid apprenticeship. Or you become what we call a choir master, which means that you're not the music director, but you're because we're all trained to play piano very, very well. You become an accompanist and the sort of like the assistant conductor. And only then you have your own choir. So it's different.
Yeah, that seems very different. And very, as I mentioned, intensive at a very young age, too. It seems like you were in that intensive study for all hours of the day, where in the States it seems like it's more this subject and that subject, and I'm sure you had that, but everything.
No. I mean, I was that fish that was never asked to climb a tree. Math for me finished in 10th grade, and most probably was algebra. I don't know. So it's like, but by the time when you've done 8 hours of School of Music and you are in college, you really decided
that's what you are.
Yeah,
that is what you are.
I actually wanted to switch when I was in 8th grade. I wanted to be in linguist.
Really? Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is should you decide for yourself, would that have been your choice?
Yeah, know what? I'm so glad. I think I was just tired of practicing piano.
Oh, sure.
And then
as any kid would be, right?
Yeah, any kid would be. And then I thought, oh my God, 4 more years of that. And yes, I'm so glad I decided. I very rarely think of what could have done, because I have languages, galore in my everyday life, right? And another thing that I always wanted to I thought maybe I can be an actress. Well, listen, I'm an actress every day because, you constantly have to put yourself into somebody else's body, voice, mind, emotion. So I'm good.
Yeah, I describe that to my emerging conductors students as well. It's like if every time you're even in rehearsal in front of an ensemble, you are on the performance stage. You are acting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true. That's so true. Well, what's a challenge then that maybe you faced in your career or in your musical upbringing that has helped you grow as a conductor or educator?
Well, first of all, coming into a different culture,
Yeah,
and
of course.
it's, yeah, yeah. I mean, I was in my 20s when I arrived to Kalamazoo, and all of a sudden, just I had so little knowledge of what people, like how people in other lands live, right? Because it was still, Soviet Union just broke, it was 93, you see. So
Hmm.
I've arrived to San Jose, excuse me, Western Michigan University, and I encounter people in choir who don't read music. Like
Right.
for me, it was, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean
Well,
you don't
that was
read
me. That was
music?
me as well. Yeah. Yeah. Everything was done by ear in the church tradition. We just sang freely in harmony. Um, yeah. And so it wasn't. I didn't learn to read honestly until university. So yeah, very different.
Very different. But see, that in itself, for somebody like me, it's like, oh, how? But on the
Hmm.
other hand,
Yep.
I'm looking at a phenomenal, non-professional tradition of non-professional singing in choirs.
Hmm.
It's so much better in America than it is in Russia, because in Russia it is, oh my gosh, if I sing in choir, I have to be very, very, very good. People would not go, so there's so many
Oh, sure.
professional choirs, and there's so many choirs where you have professional musicians who did not choose to be in this profession. So that was one. Also, Russians are so logocentric. We our society is so built on how well you read, how eloquently you speak, how much, it's like people should know from your speaking whether you read, I don't know, all of Tolstoy, or if you read Balzac, so you have to put like certain things into your speech that indicate how well you read. And here I come, and my English is still kind of, still not as good as my Russian after 30 years. But then it was very, how should I say it, everyday language. And all of a sudden I'm standing in front of a choir, and I'm trying to convey to them something that I feel so deeply and so urgently, and it's just incredibly important to me, and I can't find words. And that's when I
Sure.
started dancing. Like
Okay.
yes, I started, I was also trained as a dancer. And I just realized that, yes, I can show you, I can sing for you, but also let me dance. Like I did this stupid interpretive dances for this poor kids, freshmen in Kalamazoo. They just, "What, who is she?" So that was, of course, the challenge. But the challenge that I think I love the most is learning uh, American music. Like I've never done jazz, and of course, Western Michigan University has this one of the greatest vocal jazz programs in the country, right? And so I was
Sure.
watching those vocal jazz groups perform, and God, this is incredible. So then I just literally poured myself into all of this musical theater. I mean, people were just in stitches when I sang my first musical theater piece, which was "I'm Just the Girl Who Can't Say No." Can you imagine that with the Russian accent? So
I
I did
love it.
that.
I love it.
Yeah, I did that. And I come also from, if you know anything about the Russian culture, Russian musical country, that we don't have syncopation. It just does not exist. There may be
Mhm.
like one syncopation for a whole symphony. And then all of a sudden it's syncopation. Syncopation is all over me. And man, it was so tough. It was so tough. And now I can
Yeah.
fake practically a gospel accompaniment. It only took 30 years.
Well, there you go. Well, we're all still learning, right?
Yeah, we're
That's
always
excellent.
learning. But that is this idiom, that American music is anything about it. I took a few years to study early American music like Billings.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a whole year of absolute just immersion into shape note music.
Right.
I did a
Yeah.
whole
I love that
concert of
tradition too.
shape note music. I mean, bluegrass.
Mhm.
Gosh, you've got so much stuff here.
Yeah, there's so many different subgenres of American music. You can't just say American music because
No,
there's just
no.
too much, right? That is truly the melting pot of the United States. So
And let's keep
yeah,
it this way.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I enjoy that as well. So yeah, thank you. That's beautiful hearing your story and your perspective, which is maybe very different from a lot of U.S. conductors. So that's excellent. Okay, so how have you seen then the choral singing evolve over the years? And this will be interesting to hear from your perspective as well. Have you seen it evolve
In this country,
in both, perhaps?
there was a wonderful decade, the 2000, 2011. It was very free, and there was so much music. I used to send music to my colleagues in Russia, and they were exploring all kinds of different cultures. In terms of American music, I live in Silicon Valley, and I don't know how much of you know about it, but it is so different from anywhere else you go. You go to San Francisco, it's a different country. But Silicon Valley, I did a whole concert of music of Southeast Asia because my youth choir is 70% Southeast Asian, if you can imagine. So
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I love the fact that I can explore music from all over here, and everything is beautifully received, I think. How has it changed? I love the change.
Perhaps it hasn't always been so. That it hasn't always been well received, but very glad that now the world is a different place than it was even decades ago.
Yeah.
In the U.S., where we have expanded our idea of acceptance of music of world cultures.
Every time I'm asked to do like an old state or something like this, I always ask for programs the years before, and sometimes I receive programs from, I don't know, 85. And you look at all state programs and you can practically just watch how choral programming changed so much. You just the names of the composers, the times that the music came from, right? The centuries. And I'm sure you're completely aware of that. But if you look toward like the 2000, you still see a lot of music of like 1900s or 1800s. Now it's so current. Would you agree? Like
It
these
is,
days.
yes, and people lament, I think, the idea of the historical canon, and I think there's an argument to be made there. But I also think there's just so much music because our scope has expanded
Yes.
so much that the selection of music, when you're talking about an honor choir of what, 4 to 5, maybe 6 selections if you're lucky, choosing 6 selections out of that wide breadth of scope is a difficult thing for a conductor as well, and also to try to find inclusive ways to make the music welcoming for all.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. I totally agree. It's also very interesting to see how at first, like, everybody was fascinated with African music in the 90s. There was so much music Africa. Then it was the Latin American music came in. Then now we have Filipino. I mean, Komatsushita. Everybody sings Komatsushita. Think of 30 years ago, who even had once heard of a Japanese composer. I'm also a member of a World Choir Council, of conductors, and that's for Interculture, this organization in Europe. And so we are about, I don't know, maybe 80 conductors from I don't know how many countries. And just this is just one place where you can I can email any of them and just say, hey, what's new in your country? What's
Right.
going on? I don't think we had that kind of communication before. I mean, again, email, right?
Yeah, the digital age has changed everything
Digital
for sure.
age changed
Yeah.
everything.
It has
Everything.
connected us. Mhm.
It's almost like sometime for me it's too much. I just go, okay, well, if I had 10 concerts, I could program all of this, but now I have to choose. And I just adjudicated at Long Beach State, and there were 10 phenomenal choirs. And at the end, Ethan Sperry and myself and Jonathan Talbert, we looked at the literature and we realized that not one of the pieces of these 10 choirs were written before, like maybe 1980.
Oh, wow. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's interesting too. At the time of this recording, I just spoke with Jonathan yesterday. So
oh, you did? Oh my gosh, because he's
yeah,
also conducting, isn't he? Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's great. Yeah, we were talking
correct.
about this, and that's why I wanted to include Puccini
Yeah, it's
in
beautiful.
my program. Yeah, this from Puccini, Missa Breve, no, Missa Gloria, oops, Missa
Mhm.
Gloria.
Well, since you're now talking about the repertoire, maybe we can pause for a moment and I can bring up the list of all of the repertoire. And at the top of this is all of the honor choirs repertoire, but at the top of this list is in green. Hopefully everyone can see this. Are the selections that you've made. So maybe you can
Uh-huh.
talk about your repertoire selections here and what stands out and what are you excited about with this program.
Okay. So I'm starting with Cherubic Hymn by Dmitro Bortnyansky. And it's not a composer that is very well known. What's very interesting about this composer and in his music is that he represents the Baroque time of Russian choral music. He studied in Italy with a composer that is
Yeah,
well
I was
known
gonna ask that. That's the time that Russian music was heavily influenced by the Italian and
by the Italians.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes,
Okay,
and
yeah,
so he's writing. So he studied in Italy, and he was hearing all of these concertis, right? And concerti, and then all of the concerti were with instruments in Italy. But in Russian music, there is no instruments in the church, in the Russian tradition. And so he was writing as he would be writing for violins and oboes and things like that. So it's not difficult, but it's a Russian music that you haven't heard before, for sure, for most of the people. It's not the Silver Age, the beginning of 20th century,
19th century. Yeah, the
Rachmaninoff
Russian
and
Renaissance.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly, the Renaissance of the chant. So I also wanted to take this because he's Ukrainian,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and
Wonderful.
so I wanted to and just to bring attention to that, because this is another situation where Russians say, well, because he was in the service of the Russian Tsarina, that he's Russian. He's not. He's Ukrainian, and um, you hear in his music the actual melos of Ukraine, not
Mhm.
Russia. So to me, this is
Right.
important. Um,
Yeah, I know some of Bortnyansky's music. It's beautiful. I'm glad you programmed it on this honor choir. Yeah,
and
beautiful. Thank you for bringing it to the fore.
it's very good for young voices, because when you program Grichaninov or Rachmaninov, this was a shock when I got to this country, when I did my very first clinic at a school in Michigan. I walk in and there's 20 kids standing there, and they're singing Rachmaninoff's piece from the all night vigil. I mean, I almost like walked out of the door because
Right.
unless you have 60 big people on stage, you
That's
don't
very hard.
touch
Yeah,
Rachmaninoff.
that's right.
And they were
That's right.
singing it also with an accompaniment, like the piano was also playing. So, since I relaxed since then, just as long as you're learning something, but
Maybe some easy Kostalski or something, but not.
yeah, maybe
not
some music, but Bartnyansky, because it's Baroque music and it's not supposed to be that heavy. That's
right.
before this whole
The Renaissance.
yeah, yeah, exactly. When the low basses became just okay, even for breakfast. Let's have a low bass even for breakfast. Um,
Right.
um, so then Gloria by Puccini, I just did it a couple of years ago, and I found it such a fabulous piece that is actually rarely performed. It should be performed more. It's just like they say about Verdi that the Requiem is his best opera, and Giacomo Puccini wrote only one multi-movement sacred piece before, when he finished his degree as a church composer. And I just think it's very youthful, and it's also just so fun to sing. So that's Puccini. And then Proud Music of the Storm. I love Jake Ronestadt music. I have done actually with Jake on Wednesday, 2 days ago, because San Jose State University premiered his new piece called Vincent Sky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, on Vincent van Gogh's writing letters. And it's a great. It's very dramatic. It has beautiful writing. The words of Walt Whitman are wonderful. I love to work with Walt Whitman's poetry. It speaks to me. It's very deep, and I mean, I think speaks to anybody, honestly. And I know that we will have good conversations about this piece with the choir. This is where I really want them to kind of like let's sit together and let's put our humanity in our hands, and let's just see how we can connect on a very profound and profound level, a courageous
Yeah,
level.
I'm in Oklahoma. I'm in Oklahoma, and this was programmed for an all-state a couple of years ago, I want to say. And now we have another Runestad piece, and it's equally beautiful. So, yeah, yeah, he has some wonderful music and
Yeah.
thought-provoking things too
Yeah.
from poetry standpoint.
Yes, so I'm looking forward to work on that. And so the piece that says new work published actually called a newfound friend, and it's a song by Seal.
Oh, lovely. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's a great arrangement. And so Vince Peterson has arranged many pieces for Chanticleer, and I have worked with Chanticleer for many years. I was the guest artistic director, music director 2 times. And so I have heard them perform these pieces, and Vince and I have been talking for many years. He wanted to write something for me, and I thought this was just a great opportunity. And I said, hey, Vince, let's do something, really fun, really big, and just sort of combination of jazz harmonies and a pop feel. And so that's what it is. I
That's
love
awesome.
pop music. I love pop music. I think I do it all the time. Choral, good choral arrangements.
Choral arrangements, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great things out there for sure. Okay, well, thank you for talking about some of the repertoire there.
Sure.
Maybe you can talk to me now a little bit about your approach when you have these singers that are coming from different schools or regions, and how you might build the cohesion and ensemble sound that you're looking for in a short rehearsal time.
Well, what I do is I have my own system, actually, and I teach. It's a combination of improvised movement, qigong, and yoga.
Qigong, yes, okay.
And yoga. Do you do qigong?
I was a Kung Fu and Tai Chi practitioner for a long time. So, yeah. Yeah. Now I'm more of a practitioner for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but yeah.
Oh, so you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly, yes.
I mean, so this is what I do in every single rehearsal. In my rehearsals, that there will be no chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they will be constantly moving. So chairs, to me, chairs, and of course I do it for my symphony course. When they sit in a circle, they sit in, so, and when they need to sit down, then they sit down. But when we move, we go outside of the circles and we just do. So it's exploration of space. It's exploration of not only it's getting to know not only people who are have assigned seats next to you, but it's actually meeting them eye to eye. So I will start with a lot of warm-ups that include partnering and include moving around. And so by the time you are, in third rehearsal, you will have looked in everybody's eyes. And before COVID, we would do a lot of like actually hands and and they're actually not just like, well, let's pull against each other and feel each other. They're actually, all of these exercises, they are in motion. For instance, that they would have to create a certain movement. And when my kids, with my singers here who work with me every week, I actually do use qigong movements of moving energy as they sing a line. And so that immediately brings an ensemble together, right? And you know what? I have never had experience of people not wanting to do it, right? Honestly.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point, even about movement and the dance element and connecting communally with each other. I feel like we got into a phase for a while of what I call park and bark,
Oh yeah.
where they kind of just stand and sing and don't move and everyone's rigid. And I just feel strongly that music is connected to the body and the soul and movement and energy and all that you're describing here. And a choir that doesn't move doesn't feel, and a choir that doesn't feel doesn't emote and convey and communicate as well. There have been some great choirs, but I've always left wanting something more from those choirs that didn't have movement of some sort in their performance. So, yeah, I think you're very wise to incorporate all of that, and that's it's excellent.
And
that
so
also.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please.
What I wanted to say is that there's a difference between exploring as you are learning, and you can just say, move. Sometimes I just have the kids dance every note, right? And then what are you going to do during the long note? How are you going to move? Because you're not going anywhere, right? And then explore movement. Is, let's say your body's stationary, but your arms are moving. You can use, but that is when you are exploring the piece. But when you actually go on stage, I don't like when choirs just make me feel all dizzy because they all move.
Right.
It's not about me, but it's also about actually taking your balance, the balance point, right? And you're constantly moving, and so your technique can be very different. So then just putting all of this experience inside, and so the movement becomes music rather than your body continues to
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I think you have to still be rooted in the sound.
Yes, you have to be rooted, but certainly not stiff, right?
Correct.
And that's so every rehearsal that I do, I kid you not, starts with yoga. I mean, my students receive yoga mat is the same day they receive their music. It's a part of their uniform. And so and now it's only 15 minutes in a combination of meditation, a yoga flow, and qigong. And it goes very fast, but how they come from school. They're just, their head is good, while their body is completely cold. And that replacing, how they say it's replacing the sun and the moon, right? Putting the sun here, and then this is calm, and this is, your
Right.
energy in the belly is boiling. And I cannot tell you how much better they rehearse. Even the little ones,
No,
they
I'm
have to
sure.
sit down and meditate a little bit. So
Yeah, that's beautiful.
yeah, I love that. I love that.
Well, that kind of answers my next question about, you know, what singers can expect, especially even in the first rehearsal with you. That's excellent. So I think that's going to be a special treat for them, and for directors and anybody who might listen to this, students or singers otherwise that will come to hear you speak a little bit about that. I think that'll make them excited. This is a special honor choir that you're going to conduct with only 12th graders in
I
their final
know.
year. Yeah, their final year of high school as singers. So what do you hope they take away from this experience onto the next chapter of their lives?
You know, the thing that I want everybody, whoever been in choir, to understand and use is that if no matter where you go in the world, and I have been around, I tell you, if you can find a choir to sing with, and you always can find a choir, you will have friends. You will never be alone. And it really, I mean, it really does. I give you a great example that I will never forget. I had a student in Cantabile, my youth choir, who decided to take a leap year, right? Is that what you call it? Leap year? Not leap year.
Oh, leap year. Yeah. Yeah. Gap year. Yeah.
Gap year. Sorry, not leap year. Gap year. I apologize. And somehow she ended up in Greece on a very small island, not speaking Greek, and on a small island, finding people who speak English was not very easy.
I'm sure.
And she wrote to me and she said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so lonely." And because I have very good relationships with my kids. And I said to her, "What are you talking about? If this is Greece, there must be a church." And then she went to that church and she immediately was a part of the community.
Yeah, of course.
So if that's only one thing that you're going to take out of that, that is, you will never be alone, ever, if you are a choral singer.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. It's been beautiful to talk to you and hear your perspective on this music. Where can people follow your work online or get in touch with you should they want to connect?
Well, Facebook. I'm sorry, I'm old. Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. I will be really happy to connect with people. But I wanted to say that um, there are two things that I am very passionate about, and that's what I like to bring. Whether I'm standing in a choir of 100 people or I'm just talking to a room of three colleagues, is um, I want people to become more. I want to help people to become more connected to their bodies, whether they're teachers, whether they're singers, whether they're conductors. It is so important to, and it doesn't, you can be any age, but just realize that the instrument is so diverse and it's so eloquent, and connecting to your body, mind, spirit, voice. Andrea Thomas said this 30 years ago, and I have lived my life with this four words for the rest, to this day. So if anybody wants to come observe my teaching, my rehearsals, or I don't know, talk to me about how to bring more movement and body awareness into the rehearsals, I'm happy to help. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, I really hope that because of what's happening in the country of my birth, people do not stop learning from the culture and the art that has been such a huge and beautiful part of Russian legacy.
Yeah, I agree. I still have some great Russian friends from my trip that I still am able to connect with here and there as they're able. So yeah, I agree completely.
Government is not people.
That's true. We can say that about the U.S. as well, in all countries. Well, thank you again so much for joining us and for lending your expertise and your perspective to SWACDA and the honor choir. And we look very forward to seeing you in Albuquerque.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. It was wonderful to talk to you.